GM, everyone. This is Nomad Fury, and we're back once again for another episode of the Nomads podcast. And today's special guest is no other than the founder of D.Buzz, known as Nathan Senn. So, Nathan, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
All right. And also, I would like to say hello to all of our viewers who are tuning in to our podcast right now regarding D.Buzz, which is a decentralized social media platform. So we will be learning more coming from Nathan on what is it all about, especially if you are very curious about it. So, Nathan, are we all set?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So, my first question to you is, could you explain a bit on what D.Buzz is all about? Like maybe in just a few minutes?
Yes, DBuzz is a decentralized social media platform where users can post short form content, and that content is immutable and stored on the blockchain. And those users own their accounts, they own the connections that they make on those accounts, and they own the content, and no one can take that away from them.
Awesome. So that's a simple explanation from Nathan on what a D.Buzz is all about. Now, before you got into D.Buzz, Nathan, could you share your story on how you got introduced into the crypto and Web3 space and why you pursued it?
So in 2014, I became aware of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and I started researching about how cryptocurrency worked and became very interested in it. As a developer, I looked for opportunities to develop in the blockchain space, and that's when I learned about Monero, which is a privacy coin, and I began working on various projects that were related to Monero and some different forks of Monero, actually working as a blockchain developer. And then in 2016, I moved here to the Philippines and started looking for talent here, and set up a development company that outsources Philippine developers to work on various blockchain and Web2 projects. So over the past 6 years, we worked on many different projects, but our core focus has always kind of been the blockchain space. And in 2019, I met Chris Rice, who was doing a blockchain meetup here in Davao. And at the time, it was called Steem Philippines. And Steem was a blockchain that allowed people to create social media content on and write blogs. And so in 2020, we began working on a decentralized social media platform that we were going to launch on Steem. Well, Steem ended up forking into the project that's now called Hive. And so whenever the Hive fork happened, we chose to, instead of launching on Steem, we chose to launch on the Hive blockchain. And so in 2020, we began working and actually launched the D.Buzz platform. And we've been working on the D.Buzz platform for the past 3 years to bring it to the point of where it is now.
Awesome. That's really great to hear from you on how you got into the crypto space, especially that you have mentioned Monero and also Steem. So, to be honest, I'm also a Steemit user back then. I'm the first, in my first few months in doing cryptocurrency, I am exploring Steemit. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, if Hive is the fork of Steem, is that correct?
Yes, Hive is a fork of Steem.
Oh yeah, of course, because Justin Sun, getting into that game. So in that news back then, and Nathan, as what I remembered, I think Justin Sun has acquired Steem, and then that's where it resulted for Hive to be created. It's kind of a separate thing. So yeah,
Right.
that's what
there was quite a large controversy. What actually happened was there was Steem and Incorporated, and Steem and Incorporated had made a lot of promises to the community. Steem and Incorporated held a large portion of the Steem token, and they had promised that token would be used for the furtherment of the development of Steem. And what happened was Steem and Incorporated sold their stake and all of their assets to Justin Sun, who no longer shared the same values that Steem and Incorporated originally had. And whenever the top witnesses tried to enforce the promises that Steem and Incorporated had made, Justin Sun colluded with the exchanges to basically cut out some of the top witnesses and even freeze users' assets on the Steem chain, which resulted in the Steem community, or the Steem community, a large portion of them deciding to create a fork of Steem to be Hive, which would adhere to the values that we had originally set forth on Steem. And that's kind of how Steem was, or how Hive was born.
Oh, I see. So in other words, Justin wants Steem to be centralized, correct? Yes.
That seemed to be the sentiment, or the way that it felt. Like he wanted absolute control over the chain versus the witnesses having, you know, the voting power, and it being a community run project. He wanted, you know, more control than what the community wanted to afford to him. And they also wanted, you know, some assurance behind the tokens that Steem and Incorporated held, that Justin Sun acquired. And whenever those promises, or, you know, there was many different discussions between some of the leaders in Steem with Justin Sun, and when there was, you know, no agreement made, and then various things happened that eventually led to Justin Sun basically having Bittrex and I think Binance. I'm not exactly sure what all exchanges. I don't want to be quoted on this, but some of the top exchanges basically give Justin voting power with their users' funds, which in turn froze all of their users' funds on the exchange for 13 weeks. And he used that voting power to vote in all of his own top witnesses, which basically made the chain completely under his control, which went against the values that we stood for. And so the community wanted to show the power of decentralization and community. And what happened was that instead of, you know, staying with that with Steem, they took the exact copy of that project and created Hive, which secluded Justin Sun's stake from those funds, and he no longer had, you know, complete control over returning the power back to the community.
Yeah, that really makes sense, you know, you know, because, you know, Web3 is decentralization, you know, so this is why Hive was created. And speaking of Hive, so this leads me, you know, for D.Buzz, you know, which is our main topic. So what is the real reason behind the name D.Buzz? Like, why have you decided to choose this name for your project?
So originally, like I mentioned, we were going to launch on Steem, and we had the name Steem Says. And whenever the Hive fork happened, we could no longer call it Steem Says because it was no longer Steem. So we began looking for a name that fit more with Hive. And so we had looked at various different names, and we kind of had a brainstorming session on branding. And we were looking through various domains that were available, and we stumbled across the domain D.Buzz. And someone said, you know, D for decentralization and B for buzz. So that was kind of where the name D.Buzz, decentralized buzz, came from. And the whole idea behind DBuzz is that, like Twitter, you create tweets. On DBuzz, you create buzz. And so that was where the name was kind of came from.
Okay, I see. I get it. So it's kind of a decentralized version of Twitter. That's really nice to hear because I am also using Twitter for most of the time. Now, about D.Buzz again. Could you share about its mission, vision, and core values?
The mission of DBuzz is to give users the control over their content. To on DBuzz, the users, like I mentioned earlier, own their accounts. They own the content that they create on those accounts, and no one can take that away from them. Because, and one of the driving factors that led us to create DBuzz was seeing Web2 platforms where users would spend years of their life putting forth effort, growing their identities on these Web2 platforms, creating content and making connections, and then waking up one morning and realizing that their entire online identity had been taken away from them, and they no longer had access to their connections, to their content, to their private messages. And a lot of times it was for arbitrary reasons, or for not unclarified reasons, that these platforms are for political reasons, or you said something that went against the current narrative. And even like very, very simple policy reasons, such as on one of my friends, PJ Entrepreneur, he legally changed his last name to Entrepreneur. And on Facebook, they have a policy that you must use your real name on your profile. And so when he legally changed his name to Entrepreneur, he changed his name on Facebook to PJ Entrepreneur, and they suspended his account. And so for the last 3 years, he's been trying to get his account reinstated by Facebook, but they don't believe that his name is really Entrepreneur. Even though he sent passports and IDs, they think that it's fake. And so this is the problem of the Web2 platforms, is that they are centralized, meaning that someone sitting behind a screen somewhere has the power to take away your identity, to strip away your connections, to hide all of your message from you, and not give you your data. And with Web3, you own your data, you own those connections, and no matter what happens to these platforms that are on Hive, you always own your content. It always will live on the Hive blockchain, no matter what happens to the platform that you're connecting to the Hive blockchain on, such as DBuzz or 3Speak or Hive blog, whatever it be, whatever platform that you're using, they all tie into the Hive blockchain. And so that content and those connections are always there on the Hive blockchain. And so that's really our mission, is to give users, or to make an access point for users to access the Hive blockchain.
Awesome. I mean, your mission, vision, and core values are really awesome. You know, especially the fact that we are in the move now into decentralization, because the Web3 is the trend right now, and also about the problems that you guys solve in today's social media era. You know, Nathan, I see that DBuzz is a layer 1 project that is using Hive tokens in the ecosystem, just like what you have said. So, my question is, will you be planning to create your DBuzz tokens in the future? And if yes, what would be its utilities?
So that is a conversation that has come up many times, and we've discussed it internally amongst our team. We do plan on one day launching a DBuzz token. We haven't worked out the details. Our core mission was to create a platform where users had ownership over their content and their accounts first. And once we had created a ecosystem and we had users, and we had shown, our ability to create this platform that sometime in the future we would introduce a token, and instead of doing it in reverse, like a lot of projects, they launch an ICO token to fund their dream, and then people basically see it as an investment, and then if they don't carry through, then everybody loses their money. And we wanted to do something different, where we created a platform, we created a community, and then we distributed those tokens to that community, and then the community basically had those tokens and an ecosystem around the platform, versus a money grab where we're basically just trying to raise money to build the platform. We're doing it opposite, where we're not even doing an ICO. When we launch the D.Buzz token, it will actually be distributed to our users of the platform. So that's something that I don't have a lot of details that I can share right now, but it is something that we are actively discussing, and maybe in the coming year I'll have more information to share with you on that.
All right, so let's look forward for D.Buzz token to make its debut in the future. As you said that you're in talks about that with your team, so let's look forward to that. Okay, now Web2 social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc., that we are using nowadays are likely going to dominate in more years to come. And Web2 cannot be fully replaced by Web3 anytime soon, despite Web3 is the future of the internet. So most likely your target market are the Web3 audience, which is estimated below 1% of the entire population worldwide. So Nathan, how would you attract the remaining 99%, which are the non-Web3 audience, to consider switching to D.Buzz?
So that's a great question. And one of the key features that we're working on right now to attract more non-Web3 users onto D.Buzz and introduce them to the Web3 world is creating a more simplistic onboarding system, where the onboarding to use Web3 platforms such as D.Buzz is much more simplified for the average user to understand, and then also incentivizing users to create content, so people would be attracted to the platform versus the Web2 platforms, because they're incentivized to create content, and they can earn from the content that they create on these platforms. So that's our main way of attracting non-Web3 users to our platform right now.
Okay, I see. Because I saw in a Facebook post like maybe like 2 months ago, maybe in the Philippine Blockchain Week 2022, there is one post on Facebook that I've seen that he said that most of the projects who are participating in that event, they're only targeting 1% of the market. So, and he said that most of them are not really problem solvers for the non-Web3 audience. So yeah, would you agree on that, Nathan?
I would say that the vast majority of Web3 projects are tailored to a very niche audience, and that's where we're trying to differentiate ourselves to reach to a larger audience versus the 1%, like you said. If a project is tailored just to cryptocurrency, if the onboarding process is too complicated, and if it doesn't give a valid reason for people to want to use the platform, then it's going to remain a niche audience. And D.Buzz has various things that attract users to use. One is the immutability of the content that you create on there, the fact that you own your account, that you own the connections, as I mentioned before. And then the third is that you're incentivized monetarily to create content. And there's very few platforms, I think, that in the Web3 space that offer all of these benefits, and is also a has a nice UX that the average user would be able to understand and be familiarized with, versus some of the Web3 projects where you have to be you have to understand more about blockchain to be able to use them, or even to onboard. We made the onboarding process very simple, where you just pick a username and then you do a two-step verification with your phone number, and then you're giving your keys, and you can log in and begin using the platform. So we've tried to simplify it, and we're working on simplifying it even more than it's already been, so that users who are not familiar with the platform would be able to onboard even easier than they are now.
Awesome. So that's a great insight from you, Nathan, on how you guys could target the remaining 99%, which is the non-Web3, to switching to D.Buzz sometime in the future. So since you mentioned that it's a decentralized social media platform, so how would it protect us users from scammers and spammers from taking advantage of the ecosystem?
Right. So that's another great question that you've asked. And so with Hive, the great thing about Hive is you have a massive community of people who are part of this community. And like I mentioned before, you're incentivized to create good content. On the opposite side, if you create content of, like you said, spam or scams, then your content is going to be flagged by the community members, right, as potential dangerous content, and then downvoted, which would then in turn drive your reputation score down. So our users would be able to see that the reputation of this project that's promoting some type of scam or spamming, sending lots of bad content out or whatever, is seen to be of low reputation. And then also Hive has a mechanism built in place where, while yet it is free to post content on the chain, you have to have resource credits, and resource credits a lot of time for new users are delegated. If you sign up for D.Buzz through our onboarding portal, we delegate resource credits to you. And basically what resource credits are is, if you have Hive and you power it up, you receive so many resource credits, and you use those resource credits to create content on the chain. And those resource credits recharge every day. So it's not costing you any amount of money, but there is a limit on how much content you can post per day based on the amount of resource credits you have. And that's the difference between, the reason we didn't launch on a platform like Ethereum, is that if you post content on the Ethereum blockchain, you have to pay a transaction fee. And on Hive, you just use resource credits, so it doesn't actually cost you money, and you get your resource credits every day to create your content for that day. And so the fact that what prevents people spamming is that they would have to have an enormous amount of resource credits just to constantly, create lots of spam. And what prevents a lot of scams or bad content on Hive is that the community flags that content as whatever it is, So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, I see. The committee are the ones who are going to flag the content. So that it already includes the comments, right? The comment section?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So a follow-up question about that. Let's say a spammer has posted a spammy content in D.Buzz. So I know that blockchain is tamper-proof. So let's say if it's flagged by the committee, will that comment still remain on the blockchain?
Yes, that comment will still remain on the blockchain, but it will show that it's been flagged. A lot of times on a lot of the different platforms, they actually hide it from the actual front end. So it will either show that this comment was hidden, or you'll also see the reputation. A lot of times, if it's their repetitive offender, they'll actually have negative reputation. So, and it also would go to the bottom of the feed. So all of the comments that had upvotes or had more positive reach would be higher up in your comments. So while yes, it is immutable, it's still on the blockchain. There are different mechanisms put in place to identify that content.
Yeah, so that is something that we can avoid because it's tamper-proof, immutable on the blockchain. For
Right.
for that kind of spam comment, but it's just being flagged by the community. And was given a very bad reputation about that. Okay.
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay. Now, on this day, Nathan, what are your main priorities for D.Buzz to gain massive adoption in the Web3 space, especially right here in the Philippines?
So that's another great question, and we have began doing a marketing campaign, and I began speaking on various podcasts such as yours. That's one of the reasons that I'm here, is to raise awareness of D.Buzz. D.Buzz was actually founded by Chris Rice. He is a Philippine citizen that I met here in Davao City, and partnered with him to help him get the project off of the ground, and I'm his co-founder. So we're also in the process of putting together a Hive proposal. And I'd mentioned about the Hive blockchain before. They actually have a developer fund for people who are building apps on the Hive blockchain, or promoting the Hive blockchain, or anything that would promote the Hive ecosystem. There's funds available. And what you have to do is create a proposal and then propose what your idea is. And then the community would then vote on whether or not to fund that. So we're currently in the process of submitting a Hive proposal, one for continuing to develop the D.Buzz platform and various development tools for other developers who want to build applications on Hive. And the other part of that is to begin a larger marketing campaign where we're actually have various marketing companies that are assisting us in the marketing of Hive and D.Buzz.
Okay, so that's really awesome for me to hear, regarding the main priorities that you have for massive adoption of the D.Buzz, especially right here in the Philippines. And also, I would like to make a quick shout out to Chris Rice, who reached me out to Facebook, for this kind of collaboration with you, Nathan. So shout out to you, Chris. Okay. Now, Nathan, could you share some of the notable achievements that you guys have from the beginning until now, the notable ones?
Yeah, so I would say one of the greatest achievements that we have is surviving for 3 years. A lot of Web3 projects launch and are short-lived projects. They don't want either bring a viable product to the market, or they lack funding. And so I want to give a huge shout out to the D.Buzz team and the developers that we have working behind the scenes, and Chris Rice as well, for making that happen. And D.Buzz has evolved from a idea in a coffee shop between a few blockchain enthusiasts to an actual platform that has users that are using it on a daily basis, and being able to kind of navigate the Web3 world. I would say that that's our achievement, is being able to bring a valid platform where we, attracted users and built a working product over the last 3 years, and not shut down and folded under all of the pressure of the booms and busts of the crypto markets over the past few years.
Awesome. Those notable achievements that you have mentioned. Wow, you guys are really doing it. So yeah, hopefully that you guys are going to be, to stay for the long run. And of course, how do you assess the current market situation right now? And do you think that D.Buzz could survive regardless of the market conditions? And if yes, how do you deal and overcome these odds that would keep your project going until now?
So yeah, another great question. I would say first that, like I mentioned before, I've been involved and aware of cryptocurrencies since 2014. So I've seen when Bitcoin was $200 to where it is now, from going from $200 to the high 60,000 dollar range, and then back down and up and down, and I've kind of rode all of these waves, and right now it feels to me like something's brewing. Like I can feel like a lot of interest in this technology, in this community, is rising, like it has other times when we've seen bear runs. Especially the Asian market right now seems very enthusiastic, very bullish on the entire crypto market. So I feel like for me, I'm very bullish that the crypto markets are going to perform very well over the next year. As far as whether DBuzz would survive the markets, one of the great things about DBuzz is we don't depend on the markets for our sustainability or our survival. So regardless of what the markets do, DBuzz is here to stay, and will continue development no matter what happens over the next few years with the markets.
Okay, so that's great to hear from you on how you guys are going to overcome it, despite these unpredictable market conditions, especially the assessment that you have right now that sometimes it goes bullish and it goes bearish. Lately we have reached like 23,700 before got rejected by resistance, and
Right.
going back to under 23K again. So yeah, it's really unpredictable. So we just have to be ready for it, you know. And of course, for my final question to you, Nathan, could you give us some reasons on why we should not miss out this opportunity?
Yeah, so I would strongly encourage everyone who is tuned into this podcast to do research on the benefits of Web3 technology and how it gives you ownership over the assets, whether it's NFTs or whether it's social media platforms that are on Web3, and see the benefit that it provides and the opportunity. Because I feel like the users who take this opportunity to grow their social media followings on the Web3 platforms are going to be the early adopters, and those are going to be the leaders on these social media platforms when they go more mainstream. So this is like the very beginning of the internet, or the beginning of a new age, and this is opportunity for you to be one of the first movers in this space.
Awesome. So at least we've learned from you, Nathan, on why we should not miss out D-Buzz. Okay. So before we wrap this up, do you have some parting words for our subscribers and viewers who are tuning into our podcast right now?
Yes, I would like to say, hey, thanks for everyone tuning in. If you're interested in the DBuzz platform, you can go to D.Buzz, and on any device or computer, the website domain is D.Buzz. You just type that in your URL bar, and it will come up. You can make an account there for free. It's free to create an account right now, and go and try out the platform. And if you have any any questions, feel free to reach out through our various social media channels, and we'll try to help and support you.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest for today's podcast. So we have the co-founder of D.Buzz, Mr. Nathan Senn. So once again, Nathan, thank you so much for being here in the show. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me on. Thank you.
Yeah, and also I would like to thank all of our subscribers and viewers who are tuning into our podcast right now with Nathan, the co-founder of D.Buzz. So if you want to learn more about it, so I provided all the source links right here on my YouTube description. And just to let you know, guys, that this video is only intended for educational and informative purposes. And one more thing, guys, I would like to invite you all to smash the subscribe button, hit like, and turn on the notification bell for more videos, AMAs, podcasts, and more. Okay, so from my freaking home studio, this is Nomad Fury, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you all for watching. Thank you.